Hi, welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Rainbow Ange. Welcome to my little corner of YouTube. I really appreciate you coming to spend some time with me today. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, crochet, spinning, sometimes other crafts, and I also run a small yarn shop based here in South Wales in the UK, just outside of Cardiff. So oftentimes there'll be a little section of me chattering on about any relevant shop news as well. I am feeling a little bit overwhelmed at the moment. My subscriber number have jumped up quite a lot in the last few weeks, which is very humbling and a little bit nerve-wracking. It's a little bit different thinking that you're chatting to 20 or 30 people as opposed to 200 or 300. I just want to say a very big welcome to anyone who's come to join us here on the channel recently. I really appreciate you giving me a try. I think that my subscriber numbers have jumped due to the kindness of 3 ladies in particular that I know of who recently mentioned me on their channels. So I just want to say a very big thank you to Kim, who is Blue Cherub 82. She is a crocheter extraordinaire, and to Zoe, who is Pins and Needles UK. Zoe is a local to me, very talented knitter and designer, and she also sews some of her own garments, which is just magical to me. Sewing, I'll get there, I will. I can do basics, I make project bags and stuff like that, but garments, that's the next level. And also to Carolien, who is Colourful Creativity. She is yarn dyer extraordinaire and wonderful maker, and hopefully I will be remembering to link all of their lovely channels down below. For 2019 I'm hoping to get a little bit better at linking things that I mention and just making it a more interactive experience and easier for anyone who visits to navigate around to some of the things that I mention. I've got a lot to try and pack into today. I've got some spinning, I have got some knitting, I've got some crochet and a little bit of shop talk. And also I thought, as the subscriber numbers have jumped up, it would be fun to have a little bit of a thank you giveaway. So if you stick around, then at some point later in this video I will have a 250 subscriber giveaway. Before we move on to the content proper, I just want to mention I'm wearing my Ricky hat this morning. It's Sunday morning here in when I'm recording. It looks like it's going to be quite a fine bright day, but it's also really chilly, and as it's quite early I don't want to put the heating on yet. So I thought I'd wear a hat instead. So this is my Ricky hat, and I knit it from a skein of Countess Ablaze yarn. I'm afraid I can't remember the colourway, but I think it was possibly part of one of her limited edition dye clubs anyway. But I love this hat. I need to make some more Rickies. I wear it all the time. Anyway, enough waffle. Let's get to the meat of this episode. If you watched the last of my longer vlog episodes, I think it was 53, but I'm not quite sure. I had a little section at the end about some of the goals that I wanted to achieve in 2019, and one of those is to spin for at least 15 minutes a day. So I actually have some hand spun yarn to share, in large part thanks to that goal. A couple of years ago now I was gifted some lovely Rolags by my friend Sophie, who made these herself. I'm afraid I don't know the fibre content, and there was different fibres in the Rolags because some of it was much coarser than others, some of it was dyed, but I decided that my first project for 2019 would be to get the rest of those Rolags spun up, and I have managed to do that. So here are my hand spinning efforts. As you can see, the fibre was a mixture of lovely browns, which is a lovely natural colour, and then yellow and orange, and the orange also had a little bit of stellina in it, or Firestar, something like that, a bit of sparkle. So I spun up just on my basic wooden drop spindle that I got in a starter kit from Hilltop Cloud. I popped 3 rolags onto the spindle at a time, and then I 2-plied. I had hoped to try and I spun the rolags in colour order, so it went from orange to brown to yellow, I believe. So I popped 3 rolags onto the spindle, did another 3, and then I was hoping to maybe get an almost striped yarn by plying the colours together. But I guess because the rolags were handmade, and actually while I was spinning it was fairly obvious that some of the colour repeats were bigger than others on the different rolags, so I ended up really with a barber poled yarn. I've got a bit of an orange stripe at the start somewhere where the 2 colours sort of stayed the same, but then the colours changed at different rates. So I have this fun yarn. So I have this one, and then I ran out, I 2-plied from the 2 bumps that I'd spun. One of the balls that I'd spun up had a lot more fibre on it than the other, or yarn I should say, on it than the other. So I ended up plying back on itself another little bump. I also have somewhere another section of this yarn that I spun ages ago. So all in all, I've got about 30 grams of this yarn to use. I was thinking about using it to knit up some of those little gnomes that I started in my 12 cast-ons of Christmas adventure, if you watch those videos. But because there's a good 30 grams here, I'm thinking I might actually have a go at making myself some fingerless mitts or some wrist warmers, because 30 grams is quite a good quantity. It's kind of a DK weight, I guess. Some of it is probably as fine as a fingering, definitely. So yeah, fingering to DK weight yarn I managed to get out of those rolags. So yeah, that's one of my oldest spin projects off of the spindle, so I'm really happy about that. For my knitting section this week, I have 2 finished objects to show you and 2 works in progress. So this week I have been trying to concentrate on some of the oldest works in progress that I had on the needles, and yeah, I've made some good progress, which I'm really happy about. First off this week, I decided to tackle the oldest knitting work in progress that I have on the needles, and I managed to get it cast off, which is really fun. Last year, so I'm going to say 2017, I know that's technically not last year, but I also tackled a 12 cast-ons of Christmas adventure, and I still have 3, or had 3 projects on the needles from that 12 cast-ons, and the oldest of which was this one, the Amulet shawl, and the pattern is by Helen Stewart. I'm just going to, maybe I'll push you a little bit further away so I can hold this up, excuse me. So here is my finished Amulet shawl. Hopefully that gave you a good idea of the shawl. The pattern is by Helen Stewart, who is Curious Handmade. Beautiful yarns were a gift from James. He went on a work trip to Seattle. It must have been probably September 2017, I guess. And he went into a local yarn shop, I believe it's called Serial Knitters, and purchased me these 2 lovely skeins of yarn with the help of the wonderful staff in that shop. So I decided to pop them into an amulet shawl, which is this lovely garter stitch triangular shape shawl with some lovely lacy sections in the middle and on the edge. So the variegated yarn is, I believe, from Dye House Yarns, and it's a singles base, and it's on their Eclipse colourway, which was to commemorate the solar eclipse that had recently happened. And then the orange solid colourway is called Clementine, and it's by the Periwinkle Sheep. I hope that's right, I'm just going by memory. The amulet shawl has an option to be beaded, and I decided to go with that option. However, I don't think my bead choice was the best. You can just about, oh, I think you can see them, but I bought the beads online. There's no local beading place, and so I just had to go with a best guess colour, and the colour's fairly close, which means the beads don't stand out all that well. And the beading was a real faff, and because my colour choice is probably not the best, I'm not sure if the effort was really worth it, but I'm glad I gave it a try. I tried 2 different techniques for the beading. In this first eyelet section here, I used the crochet hook method to add my beads on to the work, and then in this bottom section there are also beads in here, though they're a bit more tricky to see because of the lacy pattern and the fact that my beading here wasn't quite as successful. What I did for this second part is just to try out something different. I threaded the beads onto my yarn before I started knitting. Unfortunately, although the second method was quicker in terms of knitting the rows and placing the beads, it was also less accurate, so I couldn't quite get into a rhythm with it, and so some of my beads are not quite where they should be, and some of them are actually popping through to the back of my work, which is a bit of a pain, but as I say, it was kind of a fun thing to experiment with. I won't be rushing to do another beaded shawl, I have to admit, but if I do, I will either stick with the crochet hook method, or I might give the, there's also another technique using dental floss that you can try, so I think perhaps I would give that a go, but definitely the crochet hook method was much more successful in getting the beads to be placed exactly where I wanted to be, as opposed to pre-threading the yarn. But I'm really pleased to have finished this lovely shawl. I love the colour combination. I love the variegated yarn up here in particular. I think I mentioned before, it just reminds me of one of those time-lapse starscapes, like night sky scenes that you often see. And yeah, I think it will be a lovely cosy one to wear. Let's try and awkwardly put this on camera. So yeah, I love the play of the colours together, and the lace pattern on the edge of this is really beautiful. It's really lovely. So yeah, that is my first finished object, the Amulet Shawl by Helen Stewart. I think I'm going to take that off because that might be a little bit, although it's chilly, that might be a little bit too much for indoors, shawl and hat. So after I finished the Amulet Shawl, I decided after all of that lace work that I would do a little bit of more simple knitting, so I picked up my oldest sock whip. I started these after I attended the Knit Tea Retreat, which is organised by Jenny and Zoe, who are All About Yarn and Pins and Needles. It happened in Cardiff last October, and I had the pleasure of meeting Carolien, who is the wonderful dyer behind Colourful Creativity. And I purchased a few of her skeins at the marketplace that we had, including a skein of her lovely Koi Pond colourway. So I have a finished pair of socks, and I'm really thrilled with these. So this is the Koi Pond colourway, as I say, on her soft sock base, I think. I don't have the yarn label close to hand, I do apologise. But this beautiful colourway has speckles of oranges and blues and a lovely sort of natural cream kind of coming through. And yeah, I just love these socks, love them. In particular, the first sock that I knit, I'm just going to take it off the blocker and show you the front of the sock, because this is probably my favourite part. I don't know if you can see that. That flash there, it really looks like when you look down into a koi pond, doesn't it? And you can see the beautiful fish like under the water swimming along. So I love that bit in particular. And actually, when I first knit the sock, this bit was round the side somewhere, so when I came to put in my short row heel, I shuffled the stitches round just so this would be on the front of my leg. This yarn is really lovely to work with. It's a nice plump sock yarn and it's pretty soft. I'll be interested to see how it wears. I'm pretty tough on my socks. I wear them all the time, in my shoes, in my boots, all day when I'm at work. And some of my lovely indie dyed merino socks don't wear that particularly well. They sort of get, they pill up and felt fairly quickly, as opposed to something like an opal or a West Yorkshire spinner, which is a little bit more hardy base. So I'm going to be really interested to see how these wear. I love how beautiful they look, and they've got a really lovely stitch definition, if you can see that. So yeah, it's going to be fun to see how they wear. So that's it for my knitting finished objects this week, and I have 2 knitting works in progress to show you. The first is another pair of socks, and these are a pair of socks that I'm knitting as a commission for one of my lovely customers and friends. And she picked out in December a lovely yarn from Opal in their Silver Effect colour, which is the lovely yarn with the sparkle in it. And I have finished the first sock. Now, I have spoken about my friend many times before. She has great problems with her feet, and commercial socks just don't fit her. Her toes are very afflicted with arthritis, and a couple of other issues she has with her health mean that her toes kind of splay out a little bit. So she asked me, I've knit her quite a few pairs of socks before, but she asked me to change the fit up a little bit because some recent health issues have meant her feet have got even worse. So I've left the toe really wide, and this took a little bit of experimentation to get this to how she wanted it to be. And on the last fitting, she also, I knit the heel with the, popped in an afterthought heel, but I knit it originally with the opal yarn, and she said that the skin on her feet is now so thin that she could actually feel the sparkly bits in the heel, and it was giving her some discomfort. So I ripped out the heel, I've popped it in a contrast solid colour in West Yorkshire Spinners, I think it's called the Butterscotch colourway. And I did the same on the toe as well, because she's particularly sensitive around her toe as well. So that is the first sock finished. This colour is such a fun colourway, and the sparkles look glorious. I'm now on to the second sock, as I think we've got the recipe down. So here is the second sock. I have just finished the leg, so I'm going to pop in some waste yarn for the afterthought heel, and this will be my cinema knitting if I go to the cinema this week. So I'm hopeful that before too long these will be off the needles. I can work on these while I'm facilitating the groups that come to my shop, so they're quite a nice knit round and round, and as I say, I'll do probably at least half of the toe, the foot portion in the cinema if I go this week, so these should be off the needles relatively quickly now. I don't think there's anything else to say about those. I'm knitting a 72 stitch sock on a 2.25mm needle to give the width that my lovely friend needs. The colourway for anyone who is interested is 9672, and it's called Flash. There is the label, and it's the Opal Silver Effect, and this was last year's Silver Effect. I think pretty much most sort of November, Decembers they come out with a new line of their sparkly yarn. So my final knitting work in progress is again another one that has not seen the light of day for over a year, which is quite shameful, but it is one of the sweaters that I have left from my 2017 cast-ons of Christmas. I recently talked about my Dern sweater, which is the 4-ply sweater. I've knit the sleeves and the back, just have the front left to do, and that's just plain stockinette backwards and forwards. So I can pick that up and put that down at any time, but I thought it would be good to try and tackle the other languishing 2017 cast on that is still hanging around, and this is a pattern called Derby, and it's a texture, all over texture cardigan, and it's from Rowan Hemp Tweed Chunky, and they produced this little free pattern booklet to go with the Hemp Tweed Chunky line. And last year I made James the sweater version for Christmas, and I liked it so much that I decided to make myself a cardigan version. So I managed to cast on the sleeves, and then I didn't get any further. So I've started up on this project again. I'm still working on the sleeves. I had limited knitting time on that this week because of working on the shawl and the socks, but I've still managed to get a good few inches knit on this sleeve. So this garment is knit flat in pieces, and sleeves are my least favourite thing to work on, particularly at the end of a garment. So I decided last year when I cast on to start the sleeves first, and the little progress marker here shows where I was when I picked this up this week. So I've knit a good couple of inches on the sleeves. I'm working the sleeves concurrently but not on the same needle, so I've got them on 2 separate needles, but I'm working sort of across one and then across the other. So yeah, all in all, I guess I managed to make reasonable progress because I've knit the same on both sleeves. It is chunky yarn, so the rows work up relatively quickly. It took me a couple of goes to get into the rhythm of this pattern again. I always leave myself lots of notes, and I've got these kind of scribbly, scrappy notes from where I picked up. However, I wasn't quite in the rhythm of getting the pattern in the right place. So the first evening that I worked on this, I worked half a pattern repeat and then had to rip it all out again because I was off on the pattern. So yeah, took a couple of attempts to get into the rhythm of that, but I'm there now, and so I should be able to get cracking. The yarn that I'm using is the hemp tweed chunky, and the colour that I'm using is Ryoka, which is shade number 6. However, I think this is now the chunky version of the hemp tweed is now a discontinued yarn, so it's not readily available. So yeah, that is my progress for the derby. I'm making a couple of modifications, and I did the same when I did James's jumper. If you can see on the pattern, between the rib and getting stuck into the pattern proper, there's this sort of bit of stocking at nonsense going on, which I don't see the point of and didn't like the look of, so I went straight from the rib into the patterning. Now I've started working on this cardigan again. I really want it. It's going to be so nice and cozy, but obviously I've got a long way to go. This is all I've got so far. Oh dear. But yeah, it'd be nice to think that maybe I'll have it by next winter. I thought I would film my crochet segment from the shop today, as I've been doing a lot of my crochet work this week here. I have a little project on the go. Well, when I say little, it's not really that little, but I have a group of dedicated crocheters on a Wednesday morning, and while I do sometimes knit if I've got commissions on the go, if I can, I like to crochet along in that group. My other groups do contain crocheters, but the Wednesday morning one in particular is the one that is just dedicated to crochet. So a little while ago, probably last summer maybe, I was rooting around in the box of magazine back issues that I have in the office. I don't often buy knit and crochet magazines other than Pom Pom, but the previous owner of the shop used to buy a lot of the knitting and crochet periodicals, so I've got a whole bunch of back issues in a box, which is quite handy if we have new people who want to begin to learn something. There's usually you know, an old issue of a magazine that I can give them to take away with them if they don't want to invest in their own pattern. And while I was digging around in that box, I found an issue of Let's Knit magazine from August 2015, so it is quite a long time ago. In that magazine there was a crochet project, and he is called Lawrence the Chameleon. So I decided Lawrence would be quite a fun one to crochet up using some yarn that had not long come in, and it was the batik elements from Stylecraft, which you can see just in the cubby, not that one, that one. That was awkward. And last summer Stylecraft brought out a few new colourways, including this one called Magnesium, and I really loved all of the fun colours in this particular colourway to make something up, but I wasn't sure what. And I love chameleons, so when I found this pattern I decided to go for it. So I've been crocheting away on Lawrence for the last week or so, and I've made quite good progress on him. There's a few things that are not as I would like, but I think overall he's going to be pretty cute. So I have the body finished. Look how giant he is. So here is Lawrence's head. He has got his eyes in. I've yet to crochet the sort of ridges that go down his head, and then I have finished his body all the way down to his tail. So as you can see, he's quite long. He's almost ½ a metre long. So he's not a small boy, is our Lawrence, which kind of amused me because I know that there are chameleons, I think, that hang out in Madagascar that are basically the size of a thumbnail. So, thumbnail, I'm showing you my finger. Basic anatomy, that's not what you're here for. Thumb. So yeah, I got Lawrence's body finished, which is really nice because he's been hanging out here in the shop for a little while and not seen much love. I also have made one of his legs, and I've got another one on the go. So I need obviously to do 4 of these, and then he'll be well on his way to being finished. There are a few issues that I have with this pattern. The first is that it says it's an easy crochet critter, and while it is for the most part double crochet, there's a lot of things going on in this pattern. Obviously you've got to do shaping, so increasing and decreasing, and the tail goes down to a really fine point, and in fact I've actually cut the tail off because it should be coming out here, going round and round and round on just a few stitches. But that is really hard to work a small round, and I wasn't super keen on the big jumps between the decreases here on the tail, so I decided just to cut the tail off there. The other thing that I'm finding a little bit frustrating about this pattern is that it recommends a double knit yarn and a 4mm hook, and when I got started I didn't really think anything of it. I just dived in, wanted a project to make while my crocheters were here, and got started. But of course 4mm is usually the recommended needle size for a double knit yarn, and usually for these sorts of toys you want to go down a hook size or 2 to make the fabric nice and dense. So when I came to stuffing Lawrence, the stitching is relatively loose and there's quite big gaps. Now luckily, because of Lawrence's colouring, I don't think that's too bad on this. But if he was a dark colour and he had all that white stuffing showing through, that would not be a good look. So considering this is touted as an easy pattern, and to me easy beginner, I think there's quite a lot wrong with the pattern itself, just to my mind. There's also quite, you have to do like a crab stitch across the eyelid, which is very effective, but again, something completely new if you're just picking up crochet. I think there's a lot in this project that could put off a new crocheter. But all of the issues aside, I'm very pleased with how Lawrence is coming along. I could have stuffed him a little bit better. The problem was I was stuffing him really firmly, and that's when I really started to notice the issues with the density of the fabric that I made. And that's what got me thinking about the hook size, yarn, weight combination, and how really if I was designing this pattern I would have gone down a hook size or 2. The designer looks like she has got a fairly dense fabric. I'll just try and show you that without showing off any of the pattern. The designer is a lady called Val Pierce. As I say, this is quite an old pattern. So I don't know if he is available online or not, or whether anyone else out there would be crazy enough to have a want to crochet a chameleon. But if you've watched my videos by now, you know I enjoy a little bit of a crazy project every now and then. I'm hoping that it won't be too long before Lawrence is finished. As I say, I've got 2 1/4 legs left. As you can see in this picture, he is sporting a very stylish hat. I'm undecided whether to make the hat. Lots of my friends and customers here have said that I should make the hat, so I might make the hat because, you know, he doesn't have to wear it if he doesn't want to. Poor old Lawrence, don't want to force him into hat shenanigans. So yeah, there's not too much to go on Lawrence, so I'm really pleased to have made some good progress on him finally, as he's been languishing here in the shop in a bag for a while. Just a small little section in shop talk this week. It has been obviously a couple of weeks since I started back in the new year, and it's definitely taken me a little while to get back into the swing of things. I feel like the days are whizzing past already, and you know, we're halfway through January and I've only just blinked. You know, it's crazy start to the year. My head's not really in the game yet. I feel like I've got lots of things to do, but just not the time or the organisational headspace to get them done. But that's okay. I'm treating myself kindly, and things will get done eventually. I really need to come up with a theme for the next window display here in the shop. That is the most pressing piece of shop business that needs to be thought about and planned for, because making things takes time. And I've taken the Christmas tree out of the window, but I've kind of left it quite wintry, and I've left a few of the same elements. There's a jumper in the window that's been in there for a little while, so I really need to start thinking about that. But I just haven't had the spark of an idea yet. I've got a few things on my list of window displays for this year, but none of them are really capturing my enthusiasm yet. Hopefully something's going to come to me soon. In terms of new year, new products, we have quite a few. I'm going to show you a couple this week, and I'll save a couple for next week. If you follow Yarn and Yarns on Instagram, you will have seen these already. I'm really excited to have a couple of really fun, basic drawstring project bags from a lovely British company called Barham U. Barham U are based up in Leeds in Yorkshire, and they produce some beautiful British yarns. But in their little catalogue of products, they also have these really fun drawstring bags. They're really plain canvas. They're about 10 inches square approximately. This one is slightly smaller than the other one, but they're there or thereabouts. So I thought it would be quite fun to bring in a couple of designs of their bags. So this one is obviously knit related, pearls, just want to have fun. And then I also have a crochet themed bag. Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? Which just tickled me. And they're plain on the back, but I really like them. Really nice, just simple drawstring bag, perfect for a 1 or 2 skein project. The other thing that I liked about these bags is the simplicity of the design and the fact that it could be completely customizable. So obviously you have these cute little sheeps and lots of plain space around. So if you are a collector of pins, this would be perfect for displaying pins. If you are one that likes to fancy up your bags, you could go to town on the sheep, on his surroundings with your lovely fabric pens or some embroidery. I think it would be really fun to add some embroidery. Wouldn't it be great to have this little guy in a bit of a natural background with some foliage, maybe some flowers and some grass? And yeah, I think it would be a really fun one to customise and make your own. These are really good value. In the shop we sell them for £4.50, but they don't cost much to post out So here in the UK, I sell these for £5 including postage. And obviously if you are based elsewhere and would like to get your hands on one of these, you can contact me to find out about international postage rates. But again, it's a really small bag that folds up really small, so postage cost on those wouldn't be too much at all. The other product that we've got in the shop, and one that I'm really excited about, is a new range of yarns from Opal. And I've known these have been coming for a little while. I couldn't wait to get my hands on them. And this is the Opal Claude Monet range. So here is the range in its full glory. There are 8 colours of yarn inspired by Monet paintings, and they're all just gorgeous. There may be a slight angle change from the first half of this section because as I'm in the shop, I had a customer come in as I was busy chatting to myself on my camera. So yeah, I was waxing lyrical about the Claude Monet collection from Opal. The fun thing about this is on every ball band there is a little reproduction of the painting that has inspired the colourway, and they're all just absolutely gorgeous. And these are proving to be pretty popular already. We've only had them in the shop for a few days, but I'm already having to reorder most of the colours. For my sock yarn, because I'm just a small shop, I only tend to buy usually maximum of 4 balls in each colourway at once, because I have obviously a small collection of sock knitters, but they don't want to see the same colourways over and over again. But these have been super popular amongst sock knitters and non-sock knitters alike. I have a lovely customer who buys these Opal yarns to knit just beautiful garter stitch scarves, because she likes the striping effect, and yeah, they're gorgeous. And any patterns that you knit in 4-ply can be knit in these lovely sock yarns. So that is the Monet range from Opal, and these are being proudly displayed in my window at the moment, along with the poster, because as I said earlier, I don't have the imagination to come up with anything better. But what could be better than one of the true master artists? Nothing really. To round off this shop segment, I am going to talk to you about how I ended up owning the shop. The lovely Anita, who is Gaga Knits here on YouTube and Anita Bulb over on Instagram, asked me how I came to be a yarn shop owner. And I probably have told this story back at the beginnings of my YouTube journey, but I am a couple of vlogmases of Vlogtober and several videos later into this journey, and I've had quite a few new subscribers recently, so I thought it would probably be a good opportunity to just tell that story again, as there might be some other people out there who would be interested. So thank you for asking that question, Anita, and if there's anything else that anyone out there who is watching would like to know, then please do leave a comment in the YouTube comments below, and if I am able to, I will do my best to answer. So my journey to becoming a yarn shop owner is quite a short story really. I moved here to Wales 3 years ago, coming up 3 years ago in March will be the anniversary of us moving here. And prior to that we lived in England, just over the border in Wiltshire, and I was working for a company whose line of business was social housing. So that is low cost affordable housing for people who, through their circumstances, whether it would be a financial or health, need housing assistance. Towards the end of my career I dealt mainly with antisocial behaviour, so I was responsible for a particular neighbourhood, and I would have to take sometimes legal action against people who were making their neighbourhoods an unpleasant place to be. So owning a yarn shop is pretty different to that. I never set out to be a yarn shop owner. It wasn't really on my radar at all. But the company that I worked for had a restructure, and I didn't really fancy any of the jobs that they were offering. That is what prompted us to move here to Wales, because James was already working here in Cardiff, and so it just seemed like a good opportunity to get closer to his job and just to do something different. So that is what we did. And one of the first things I did when we moved here was come along to the shop. As an adult without any children, I think it's much harder to make friends in a new community when you move. If you have kids, then you get to chatting to other parents in the playground and that kind of thing. But if you don't, then I guess work is probably the next most common way that people strike up friendships in a new area. And for the first 6 months or so when we moved here, I wasn't working. So I decided to come along to the shop to see if there was a knit and natter group, and there wasn't a knit and natter group in the kind of traditional sense of it. The shop here offered what they called classes, which was an opportunity for people to come along and learn new skills, and but not in a structured way. You could just come along to the sessions and get help with whatever you wanted, which we still offer. I wasn't really coming along to those sessions in order to learn particularly, although that was a nice byproduct. If ever I got stuck on anything, there was someone here to help. But it was more just as a way to get to know a few people. So that's how I first came to be a customer of the shop. In the meantime, for work, I took on a couple of fixed term contracts. So I worked for another housing company here in Wales for a few months, and that kind of solidified in my mind that for my own mental well-being more than anything else, I had to have a break from that housing environment. I then found a job with a lovely local company, Glamorgan Voluntary Services, who helped local organisations, mostly charitable, find volunteers, and also helped to place people who wanted to do some voluntary work into, various organisations. That was, a brilliant place to work, a lovely group of people. As that contract was coming to an end, Christine, who owned the shop before me, announced that she wanted to retire. So I jokingly said to James, I could run that shop. And he turned around in seriousness and said, yes, you could, we should look into it. And so we did. And here I am. There's not really many times in your life where an opportunity comes up to take a chance and do something that you love. So we knew that if it was affordable, then we should definitely have a go. And so I bought the shop. The previous owner gave me a very good deal on all of the stock and all of the fixtures and fittings in the shop, and if I hadn't have had such a good deal, I wouldn't have been able to financially afford to set up a shop from scratch. However, that obviously buying the shop as was has come with its own challenges. There was a lot of stock here, so I took on quite a big job to first, get on top of everything that was here and then organise the shop in a way that made sense to me. I've been running the shop for a few months, short of 2 years now. It's been a big learning curve. I've never done anything like this before. I have never been my own boss. I have never run a small business. I have not worked in retail since back in my early teens when I had a Saturday job. So yeah, there's been lots to learn, lots of challenges along the way, but I love coming into the shop every day. There are still plenty of challenges ahead, and it is not an easy line of work, and it's not that romantic thing that people think that, you get to sit in your shop and sit and knit all day. That is far from the case. There are bills to pay. There is a shop to organise and tidy. There is stock to keep on top of. There are boring admin things, taxes and all that sort of stuff that when you work for a large company, someone else does all that lovely stuff for you. So yeah, there are many challenges to running a yarn shop, the not least of which is finding a way to make some profit, because we are a niche business. I'm very lucky that I have a supportive partner who is very understanding when I maybe don't have money to pay myself that month. We always knew it was never going to be an easy challenge, but it was definitely one that we felt was worthwhile taking a shot with. And if in a year or two's time it really doesn't work out, then at least I can say I have had a go and I followed my dream for a little wee while. And it really is a dream, because as much as it is hard work, it is also a complete joy to come here every day. So yeah, in a nutshell, that is how I became a yarn shop owner. Anything I've missed out or any information that you'd like me to elaborate on, then again, just pop a comment below and I'll do my best. That's it in a nutshell, really. The opportunity presented itself and I was in a position to be able to take that opportunity. And yeah, we shall see what the future brings, and in the meantime I am going to do my very best to enjoy every day. As I mentioned earlier on in the video, I have decided that I would like to offer a small thank you to all of you lovely people out there who are watching in the form of a giveaway. I was going to raid my stash and pick something out to give away, but it occurred to me I have quite a lot of sock yarn and stuff like that in my stash, and not everyone out there is a sock knitter. Not everyone out there can work with wool yarns, for instance. So instead I have decided to have a pattern giveaway. So I think I'll keep the giveaway open for a couple of weeks, so probably my first episode in February I will draw a winner, and all you have to do to be in with a chance to pick a pattern of your choice from Ravelry for me to gift to you is to comment below and recommend a pattern for me. So I'd love to hear about a pattern, name and designer preferably, so it's easy for me to look up, that you have made and enjoyed. So it could be knitting, crochet, I don't really mind. So yeah, I think that is the prompt for the giveaway. Just comment below and tell me all about a pattern that you have made and enjoyed to be in with a chance of winning a gift pattern from me of your choice from Ravelry. And I will use random number generator to pick a winner in the first episode that I record in February. That's everything from me. I shall be moving on to some different projects next week. If you remember, or if you didn't watch, then I shall just give a brief explanation. I'm trying to rotate week to week how I work on my projects. I've got quite a lot of projects on the needles at the moment because of my 12 cast-ons project. So this last week I have been trying to concentrate on some of my older works in progress, and so this coming week I am giving myself permission to work on whatever I like. So any of the projects that I have on my needle. All that remains is to say a very big thank you for watching today. I hope that you are able to do some of the things that you love this week, and until next time, great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.